All right. Well, I am Abby Garvey with TechPoint, and I am here today with Tony Newcome, Chief Technology Officer of ActiveCampaign, and we're really excited to be talking today. For those of us not familiar with ActiveCampaign, give us a high-level overview of your company, what your product does, and the customer you serve.
Yeah, well, first off, thank you for having me here today. Very excited to have the opportunity to share a bit. So at ActiveCampaign, we're in the business of helping every company grow. And we do that through a software platform that really has automation at its heart. So we really believe that CRM use cases, marketing use cases are really just in service to delivering an ideal customer experience. So that's what we do. We're just on a mission to help every company grow with a platform that was designed to deliver an ideal customer experience.
What industries or sectors most benefit from marketing automation, and how does it interact, or how does it impact the customer interaction?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think every industry really has, anybody that has customers should care about customer experience. And so I think that MarTech at its core is really about how do you get your brand's voice top of mind for your customer? How do you better serve them? How do you ensure if I call you that I know who you are? Every company has these problems. And so I really think MarTech is universally applicable. And we see that. Like our customers are in nearly every country. We're in more countries than McDonald's has presence in countries, which is pretty amazing. And we're in nearly every industry, from hair care all the way to museums, to opera houses, to like telecom. So it's just a really amazing, I think, opportunity. And everyone's really just trying to solve, how do I better understand my customer? And at the end of the day, how can I give them what they want faster?
And how would you say that relates to loyalty with the customer with what you guys are doing?
Yeah, I think, well, think about your personal lives. You know, the brands that know who you are, that can not pitch you things that you don't care about. You know, I was talking recently with a leader of a company, and the question really was, all I'm trying to understand is who buys, products when they're on sale, who doesn't buy products when they're on sale, and so, or only buys when they're on sale, who would buy whenever. And so there, he was even wanting to go a level deeper to say, well, which products? And so they get the right product in front of people. So I think that the more you can target your message, the right message to the right person at the right time, the better off your company is going to be, and you're going to be better because the customer is going to have a better experience.
2 years ago, Apple rocked the marketing world with their privacy updates.
They did.
Talk about email marketing's role in today's world and how it has evolved after iOS 15.
Yeah, so for those that don't know what we're talking about, they introduced some privacy features to really, what they'll do is that there's a tracking pixel that all the ESPs use, and now they just download all those images by default. So when you send to an Apple device, it just looks like everyone has opened the email. So those open metrics have become less reliable. They have some new updates coming this fall as well, which is going to open, I think, another set of challenges for the market, where they're really trying to scrub out click tracking and tracking across websites. So they're, with intention, taking parts of the parameters out of links, which I personally find a little bit fascinating, that Apple, under the guise of privacy, is opening everyone's emails, scanning them, and changing the content thereof before you as a subscriber see that. I find that fascinating, that that's somehow private, because they're clearly scanning all of our content now, but that's what they're doing. So that we're going to have to react to that.
That's a really interesting way to think about it on both sides of the value, with Apple looking at it as well. As data privacy becomes more of a public concern, how do MarTech companies like ActiveCampaign thread the line between personalization while addressing the concerns about access data? I mean, I don't want to give up my data or privacy either, but I want a tailored experience when I'm on the web and using, so that I'm actually getting served what I want to look at.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think that a couple of things. So the idea that, and I sometimes think this is happening in my life, or I will talk about something and then I'll start seeing ads on my phone. That to me feels like a clear invasion of my privacy. Now, maybe I've allowed some app to listen to me. Maybe I didn't realize that when I was asking, Alexa, or when I was asking some technology, that they were tracking that. That feels like an invasion of privacy because I did not grant consent explicitly in that moment to know that that was happening. I think that's part of a lot of the concern around, we monitor when people are browsing on a website. When you go to a store, there aren't people following you around, browsing with you to see what you're interested in. So there's been a fuzzy line of privacy for a long time in tech. I think the way that this should be done is through consent-based marketing, permission-based marketing. So you get what you're looking for, first-party data that you've chosen to give to the company with intention. I think that's all fair game for personalization, and because that's me selling you. Yeah. Listen, I'm Tony Newcome. I'm CTO of ActiveCampaign. I'm interested in these things, right? And so when you have these things, you can make my life better as a brand by telling me about them, by keeping me informed. Like there's value there. If you're listening to me on my phone, if you're monitoring what the content of my email, and if you're scrubbing these things because you're a platform like Facebook or some of these big platforms that have all this interesting data about us, and you're somehow using that to target me, I find that crossing a line. So I think there's a line there, but it really comes down to consent, permission, and respecting what your customers want.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. When I am online, there are certain things I'd be happy to give my data for, and there's things I don't. If I'm giving consent, I'm all for that. Support that idea completely. This is probably a topic you get asked a lot, but how do you foresee generative AI tools like ChatGPT, OpenAI, disrupting email marketing and MarTech in general?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I do think about this a lot. I get asked about this a lot. Generative AI has really become commoditized in a lot of ways with OpenAI, ChatGPT, AI as an API. Now there's companies that are even helping you build custom models and deploy them very easily with just some configuration. So that AI is accessible now, I think just means the variety of use cases and where it will appear in our lives will just continue to increase at a fairly rapid pace, I would expect. Now, the value thereof, I think, remains to be seen, because if we're all generating content from the voice of an artificially intelligent, engine that's really just been fed data about just the generic world, then we're all kind of generating the same content. And so I think that we really see AI as something that works alongside our marketers, works alongside our sales teams, not something that replaces them. I still think that human touch, we're all people at the end of the day. And so I think that still has a huge play in the world, and it will make things better. We've always had an investment in what would be considered artificial intelligence, or what we would consider predictive sending, predictive scoring. We've had some of these technologies for quite a long time. And now we're seeing just a really rapid adoption as these things become just more accessible to the consumer.
What role do you play in answering questions or dispelling misconceptions about AI as a tech leader, especially one in the MarTech space? And what are the ethical considerations and potential privacy concerns surrounding the use of AI in MarTech?
Yeah, these are all big questions. So I think I don't think my role is all that important in the world, but I think as a voice and the way I think about it, I'm not someone who's alarmist and thinks singularity is coming and everything's going to be taken over. At the same time, I can understand the risk of us putting too much automation in systems, right? And just allowing things to generate and kind of run out of hand. So I do think that AI as an assistant, AI as something that you have clear policy around as far as what is acceptable use. I do think there probably needs to be some government regulation here around what makes sense for society to have AI take over versus what makes sense to not have it do that. So I think we're going to have a lot of very challenging conversations as a just society over the next several years and probably decades to come. There's nothing that artificial about artificial intelligence. At the end of the day, it's mathematical formulas and it's statistics and it's probabilities and it's things that mathematicians can make sense of. So to me, I don't believe there's been like engineers coming out and saying, well, it can think for itself. And it's like, it can produce responses and answers. But at the end of the day, it's generally a mathematical reason for how those things are coming to be. Now, we may not understand them because you're really stacking a lot of pretty complex topics on top of each other. But I do think that we can't all be unemployed on universal income and expect that society will be a place we want to participate in. So I think that there will have to be some form of things sorting out there, and we don't really see it as displacing people. It's just not there yet. And I think it's really more an assistant.
I think that's really good feedback on people to think about. And I'm glad you're not a person who thinks it's going to be a doomsday and with where we're going with it.
No. And if it is, I mean, I will only be aware of that for a few minutes probably. So if I'm wrong.
If it's the Terminator version, we may all know.
This is right. Yeah,
yeah,
that's right.
Switching gears, I want to talk about ActiveCampaign's presence here in Indy. You're originally headquartered in Chicago, correct?
Chicago, yes.
Okay. Why Indy?
Well, Indy is a kind of a MarTech powerhouse. So when I joined ActiveCampaign back in 2018, I was the first hire in the Indianapolis area. And so I spent most of my time in Chicago. And one of the first questions was, well, when are we opening the Indy Hub, Tony? We want access to that talent. And when you think about it, it's the product talent. It's the roots of ExactTarget really kind of changed this market. Salesforce coming in and acquiring ExactTarget brought even more opportunity, more talent, and even more domain opportunity to work against CRM, to work against, Crux and some of the amazing technologies that Salesforce had. That talent is all throughout Indianapolis now and all throughout companies. So I think that for us, it made a lot of sense being a MarTech player that really has big aspirations. We are not here for fun. Like, we're really trying to do amazing things and really change the industry for the better and democratize access to this technology. So I think that Indianapolis just made a lot of sense.
Wonderful. Talk a little bit further about Indy's role as a leader in MarTech. A little over 20 years ago, Indy became a leader with ExactTarget, which for people who don't know, that's where Tony came from, which was sold almost 10 years ago to Salesforce. What has been the ripple effect, which you've talked a little bit about, and how has it influenced your own career?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So I was fortunate enough to spend like 8 years working in consulting before I joined ExactTarget. And so those years, I spent a lot of time just doing custom software development and that sort of thing. So when I joined ExactTarget, I didn't know what I was getting into. And it was the first experience as a SaaS platform where we had one software package that lots of people use, lots of brands use, that we deployed to our own servers and didn't have to worry about distribution. So pretty amazing disruption. To see that forming here at that time was incredible. As a result of that, and really the pioneering leaders, there's a lot of just like big names out there, like Scott Dorsey's and McCorkle's and Scott McCorkle and Doc Brown and just some amazing companies that we've had coming up. Bill Osterly more recently, and really I was lucky to participate because they chose to be here. When I graduated from Purdue, it was not clear that I would have a strong future in tech in Indianapolis because we were not really known as a powerhouse. I think that what ExactTarget did is it put the world on notice that there's strong talent here in the kind of flyover states or Silicon Prairie, whatever way you want to refer to us. I just refer to us as an amazing engineering and product hub. And so we see that with all sorts of cool brands that have been materializing. And I don't think we're going to lose our leadership position in the foreseeable future here as being known for that, because we really have a lot of investment here. We've got companies like ActiveCampaign seeking to be here, and I think that's going to continue.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott Dorsey, I mean, he's a huge leader with High Alpha and everything he's doing. I'd love to see that these leaders in Indiana have invested and stayed here and keep trying to build the ecosystem here in the Midwest and specifically, obviously, Indy. Tying it back to our conversation earlier about AI, Do you see with the adoption of large language models and generative AI that Indy can once again be the leader in the MarTech space with this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I would assert we still have a pretty strong position in the MarTech space. So I think with AI, and I don't think AI is strictly a MarTech technology. I think it's really every industry. If you're out there in farming, you're probably looking at AI. I was just reading about these cool machines that can actually go over the fields, and instead of using chemicals, they shoot little lasers to kill the weeds as they're starting to pop up. And they can use artificial intelligence to identify which is invasive, which is fine, and it's amazing. So, I think that's the kind of innovation that we really should be seeing kind of across all technology here in Indianapolis. So specifically with MarTech, I think ActiveCampaign, we're certainly a category leader in customer experience automation. I think that Salesforce continues to have a presence here. I'm looking at the Salesforce Tower now. So, they're investing in that area. I know a lot of startups around here are pushing into the same way. So I think that as long as companies aren't ignoring the potential disruption that AI brings to them, and I don't think generative content is necessarily going to produce tremendous disruptive change because it's become a commodity. Anyone can integrate content generation into their tools pretty quickly. But it's, I think, the next level of applied data science on top of your platform that really can create competitive edge, competitive advantage, and really keep Indianapolis and all the companies here relevant.
Well, those are all the questions I have today, Tony, but we're sitting here in the ActiveCampaign office off of Mass Ave. We're so grateful that you have chosen India as one of your locations. Is there anything you want to leave us with today?
Yeah, well, first, again, thank you for having me on. I think that for those online, hello, thank you for watching. Indianapolis, our best days are yet to come. Our industry, I think in many ways is still in its infancy, especially as you see things like what we're now seeing in kind of the hype stage of AI. Everybody's talking about artificial intelligence. We're under-regulated right now in some ways. I think we see companies trying to push into privacy for that very reason. Like, I think part of that is like data. It's our data. It's my data. It's your data. It's online. It's your data. This is not the company's data. And so I think that we're, as a society, trying to sort through these really big things, but I couldn't be more excited to be here on Mass Ave, more excited to be in Indianapolis. I'm a lifetime Indiana resident, and I think our future is incredibly bright, and I'm just excited to be here.
Excellent. Well, we're glad that you chose Indiana and that you're still here, Tony, and thanks so much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you.